Hey everyone, and welcome to this urgent market-driven explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the critical July 2026 polymer pricing outlook. If you're navigating the plastics and polymer industry right now, this is absolutely essential, time-sensitive intelligence you need to manage your supply chains and honestly, to protect your margins.
Now, the intelligence we're unpacking today, it comes straight from the official PolymerBazaar bulletin. These guys are a premier authority on pricing, predictions, and profits in the polymer sector. So we aren't just speculating here, we're looking squarely at the hard data and the on-the-ground market signals they've gathered, which lets us bring you the absolute most accurate forecast possible.
All right, let's run through the agenda real quick. First, we'll hit the July 2026 pricing prediction. Then, we'll look at global risks and national policies, followed by market trends for PP, PE, and PVC. And finally, we'll wrap up with the ultimate PolymerBazaar takeaway. Okay, let's jump right into Section 1, the July 2026 pricing prediction.
So, for July 16, 2026, the primary prediction is a rollover for polypropylene, polyethylene, and PVC. Basically, this means producers are largely expected to just maintain their current base price levels, rather than announcing any sweeping hikes or massive drops. But hey, do not let that word rollover lull you into a false sense of security. The market right now is anything but calm, and there is a massive amount of friction bubbling right underneath this decision.
And you can really see that friction when we look at the July 15th deadline. Indian producers are officially pulling the plug on early bird discounts and price protections starting July 15th. I really want to emphasize the urgency here, guys. Without those protections, buyers are instantly exposed to market volatility. Because of other things happening in the market, producers are definitely expected to roll out fresh policies to support their offers. So yeah, the base price might roll over, but the actual net cost to get your materials, that's almost certainly going to change the second those protective safety nets are yanked away.
Which brings us to Section 2, global risks and national policies.
There are some incredibly massive variables colliding right at this exact moment to influence what producers do next. First up, the government of India is pending an announcement on Basic Customs Duty, or BCD, and that is going to actively shape the next pricing strategy for Indian producers. I mean, any tiny tweak in the BCD directly hits their margins. And on top of that local factor, we've got some really severe global headwinds. We're talking significant geopolitical escalation in the Middle East, which is creating some very real anxiety about crude oil price momentum. The intelligence is crystal clear on this. If that situation escalates even a little bit further, commodity trends are going to take a direct hit, and prices could gain some serious upward momentum.
So what we have here is essentially a giant, high-stakes tug-of-war in the market. On one side, you've got really weak downstream demand. Local buying is just slow. We're seeing a sluggish offtake from converters and processors. But then on the exact opposite side, there is this immense cost-push pressure building up. The geopolitical tensions over in the Hormuz Strait and the looming threat of crude oil prices spiking are pushing feedstock costs higher and higher. So sluggish local demand wants to pull prices down, while global inflationary crude pressure threatens to drag them right back up. This intense squeeze, that's exactly why producers are stripping away those early bird discounts. They literally have to stay nimble right now.
All right, moving into Section 3, market trends for PE, PE, and PVC. When we look across the board, it's a remarkably uniform and honestly super cautious trend across all three of these major polymers. For PP, demand is strictly need-based, and the bazaar sentiment is just heavily clouded by uncertainty and those crude oil fears we just talked about. Moving over to PE, poor finished product sales are persisting, and very active war concerns are pretty much dominating how everyone feels. And for PVC, the atmosphere is entirely muted. Converters are just choosing to sit on the sidelines. They're highly apprehensive of a possible ex-works price hike triggered by those recent crude spikes. So literally everywhere you look, buying is hand to mouth. Nobody, and I mean nobody, wants to hold excess inventory while this West Asia crisis is looming overhead. Actually, wait, let's zoom in on polypropylene for a second, because there's a really critical nuance here. Despite that overall weak demand we just went over, where converters are reporting zero improvement in finished product offtake and procurement is strictly need-based, there is a major catch. A few specific grades in film and random are actually facing short supply in the bazaar right now. And that is a vital piece of intelligence. Even in a sluggish, super careful market, localized shortages absolutely still happen. So, if your operations rely on these specific PP grades, you can't afford to just kick back and wait. You have to actively navigate this localized scarcity, regardless of the broader market hesitation. Finally, let's wrap things up with Section 4, the PolymerBazaar takeaway. The absolute bottom line recommendation from PolymerBazaar is summed up perfectly right here. Track crude and freight daily. Ex-works revisions likely to stay volatile near term. Because of all that weak downstream demand across PP, PE, and PVC, we just aren't seeing any aggressive stocking. But, and this is the absolute most important takeaway today, crude volatility from the Hormuz tensions is the single biggest upside risk right now. This cost-push pressure could suddenly force producers to either stubbornly hold their lines or even aggressively raise their offers at the drop of a hat. And since price protections are gone as of July 15th, you literally have to be monitoring those freight and crude indicators every single day to anticipate these volatile ex-works revisions. Which leaves us with this final, really critical question. Are your procurement strategies actually ready for ex-works volatility? Think about it. If producers suddenly completely shift their offers tomorrow because of a geopolitical spike in crude, do you have a plan? You can't rely on those early bird discounts anymore. So to secure your strategy right now and stay ahead of all this market tension, I highly recommend reaching out directly to PolymerBazaar. Hit them up at PolymerBazaar.com or use the number they provided. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, guys. Keep your eyes on the data, and I'll catch you next time.